Welcome to the Sky Include podcast, where we talk all things Web3, D-Web, Handshake, domain, TLDs on the new internet. Also check us out at skyinclude/ on Handshake or skyinclude.com on the old internet. Let's tune in. All right. So today's show, just the fun stuff about, having a channel is I get to talk to people about things I want to do. And I saw Colin at aka BlockDomains, say recently on Twitter, you're going all in on Handshake. So that's perfect reason to finally have you here. I know you've been at HandyCon sharing, and you have your amazing blog insights, and you're active in the community. But for those that don't know you, can we, a little bit of insight about you, Colin?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks so much, Mike. I appreciate you having me on. And like you said, I recently decided to take the plunge, left the comfort of, an actual salary. And, for the foreseeable future, I'm planning on focusing on Handshake. So it's been kind of a trip to get here, to put it mildly. I found out about Handshake. I'm not as early as some people, but was lucky to find Handshake in the first year, kind of late summer, September ish of I guess that's 2020 now.
Yeah.
So about a year and a half ago, and like a lot of people, Stephen was the first person who kind of put Handshake on my radar screen. But it was like I said, I'm up until recently have just been sort of a normal guy in a normal job, I guess you could say. And in the pandemic, like maybe a lot of people had a little bit more free time indoors, and also with everything that was happening, in just the stock market and across the global economy, it seemed like, all right, maybe this is a little bit of a time to kind of take more charge, and not just, set it and forget it in an index fund somewhere, although that has its merits. But, my background in my day job is in real estate. So I started thinking, all right, maybe, more real estate stocks, and, that one thing led to another. And lo and behold, I ended up looking at certain companies, from a stock standpoint that were crypto related. And there's a lot of interesting stuff there. But it seemed like, okay, if I really am interested in this sector, whether it's Coinbase or some, penny stock company that's going to be, mining a cryptocurrency I've never heard of, maybe it's better to go kind of directly to the source. And honestly, before I do anything, I should learn a lot more about what's going on, actually at the ground level. And within crypto, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of builders and developers. There's also, a lot of just total garbage. And it's, it's really kind of crazy. I'm not somebody from a crypto background at all. And, heard about Bitcoin a few years ago, did the classic, like, this seems interesting, maybe someday if I don't have to, go to Western Union and send money to Japan in order to buy some, maybe but just kind of forgot about it. And then next thing you know, it's wow, whole new level. And, there was clearly a there, but understanding what separates Bitcoin from everything that's just garbage out there that seems to be, unfortunately, the majority of the crypto world. And you can say that about other industries. It's not a knock on crypto. But how do you distinguish? And as I started learning more about, where is there a there? Where is there substance? Where is there an actual need and a rationale for, blockchain is almost like, .com in the early days where, sure, everybody has a website now, but in the early days, it was maybe, have a website just to have a website, and it doesn't really matter. And I think people, no, it's maybe more pernicious now to do like just having a website. There's nothing wrong with that. Putting a whole bunch of money on a blockchain when there's no real need to have that money on a blockchain is perhaps more not perhaps, probably is more dangerous. And, you don't want to get involved with projects like that are, just don't have a solid footing for a whole bunch of reasons. It seemed like Handshake was the exception. And part of that was smart people who were, promoting it. It didn't seem to, just from a feel standpoint, it didn't have the same kind of like influencer led flavor as some coins. But then you kind of learn more about the design and the why. Why did people put all the time and energy into developing something, in order to respond to a perceived need, and learning more about, I also didn't come from a domaining or really web background, but, learning more about ICANN and the role that they play, which, I don't want to cast them as, the like Cruella de Vil of the web or anything. But it's sometimes it's adversarial with entrepreneurship, or with having more diverse viewpoints globally that aren't sort of US or Western centric. There seems to be certainly room for improvement, and particularly room for improvement in terms of market efficiency. You learn about the domain investment market in the traditional world, and it's a lot of parking, it's a lot of very opaque conditions, and Handshake, it's not a silver bullet, but it's meaningfully trying to address a lot of these problems at the root zone, at the most fundamental level, and it's doing so in a way, and this is critical for me, that's empathetic toward existing interests, the backwards compatibility, the reservation of names for the top Alexa 100,000, all of those things made me think, okay, this isn't a slam dunk. I'm not, this could turn out a lot of ways, but this is a project that's really trying to do something meaningful. And I initially bought some Handshake, and had bought, a little bit of the normal kind of beginner's basket, if you will, on Coinbase with some Bitcoin and some Ethereum, and, had a little money. I was out of my, REIT investing at this point, and kind of had all my pitifully small amount of high risk money into crypto. And then as I learned more about Handshake, said, and this is while auctions were still happening in the first year, and some really what we would later find out to be kind of consequential names were coming out, and said, what, this is, forget Bitcoin for now. I'm going to buy more Handshake, and then start bidding on TLDs, and really haven't looked back. And it was down the wormhole, big time, like a lot of people in terms of our auction participation, and that, that took its toll a little bit. So I'm happy to be in a little bit more, of a, you can not be quite as around the clock, and still be into, compete in Handshake auctions these days. So that's nice. But that's a little bit of a long-winded intro into
I liked it, man.
Where I came from. Yeah.
There's a lot to it, and we can dig in. I feel, just to kind of reiterate a couple of your mirror points that I like to highlight, is I also like that too. Whenever I see a highly hyped influencer driven project, I guess some people, it seems like actually a majority of people like that, but maybe you and I think others that are into Handshake are not into that. Seems like though most people like that though, like these heavily marketed, centralized marketing team, it's just, to me and you, I don't know, it seems like obvious red flag, or not long-term thinking, but I don't know, the majority of people seem to like to jump on these hypes, whether it's crypto or NFT or something, but it seems like you and I both like the kind of grassroots, organic, genuine feel that I think most of us could agree on in the Handshake ecosystem.
Definitely.
Right. And then I think the second big one is the backwards compatibility attempts. I know there's a couple that, some people like to highlight the couple of collisions that have happened, but it wasn't on
Sure.
purpose. But majority is, collision free and has a window for the old internet or current internet to integrate, right? Where I think
Mhm.
other naming protocols don't seem to maybe have a solution for that, or thinking about that as much as Handshake. It's like,
Right.
and then the founders of it are, they've also shared a couple of them shared a HandyCon, JJ and Andrew Lee from Perth have shared,
Yes.
and that it really gets that vibe. Like they seem like genuinely trying to, of course, there's incentives, but it seems genuinely really did it.
Mhm.
And then there was also the GitHub developer group fund.
Yes. Great point.
Yeah, I mean, that was another one, which is still even doing. I don't know if I'm in a Telegram, and there's new developers even in April 2020 that found out about it and are claiming their airdrop. It's crazy. I saw some people
Oh, that's great.
just today, yeah, like a group. So
That's awesome.
it's a cool feeling. Yeah. So I kind of had on the list the differences of the other naming protocols. I guess even I just kind of highlight a couple of differences, but I mean, I'd I'd like to
Yeah.
hear what your thoughts are of like the other ones out
Yeah,
there.
definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I in part because I don't have the energy, I don't take maybe as antagonistic a view toward other protocols as maybe some of our brethren do. In some ways, like one of the things that's great about Handshake and one of the differentiators, as I see it, at least compared to what I consider the major other naming projects, is that with HNS's focus on the root zone and Ethereum name service and unstoppable domains are what I see as kind of the main other projects. And I'm purposely not using the word competitors there. YAT is interesting, and it's kind of another category, and I'll kind of just put that to the side for the time being. But I guess the statement applies to them as well. They're focused on the sub domain level. Whether it's .eth or .at or the various extensions that Unstoppable Domains has offered so far, those are all hierarchically subordinate to Handshake. And I'm not the person to be telling anybody how to do this, but Impervious, for instance, has already demonstrated the kind of very happy, it seems, coexistence between Handshake and ENS in that case. So I really think that Handshake's focused on the root zone. There are like Unstoppable Domains. They have a .crypto. There's a .crypto owner whose identity, honestly, I am forgetting right now. I've thought a lot about .nft, which is another of theirs, and that's well known that Jahan has that, and in no way have knowledge of his plans or intentions with it, but he's not an unsophisticated investor, let's put it that way, and he's somebody who's going to be able to navigate, if there's anybody in the Handshake community who's able to navigate the legal side of collisions and really all the kind of stuff that's going to need to be worked out there, I'm happy that he's the owner of it. Let me put it that way, because I think that that's going to be an interesting thing to watch. But really, I'm a coexist, I guess, attitude with all of this. But there's a reason that Handshake appealed to me more than those other domains or those other naming when I was getting involved. And it really came down to, I really have drank the Kool-Aid as far as Handshake in the last year and a half. But I'll be candid at the beginning, and hey, I'm still here to make money, and that was certainly what was motivating me at almost solely at the beginning, of course, without like doing bad things, but in addition to the purpose and the fundamental role that Handshake plays. Part of it was just, I think it's a lot easier to buy and resell names in Handshake, and in the case of Ethereum, the transaction fees were really a scary thing for me. And I say that as somebody who didn't come from a Ethereum background or really hadn't had any prior exposure to NFTs. which I guess a lot of people hadn't at that point, but it really, that just seemed like such a burden. And part of my strategy has been, almost through fault, if I could do it again, I might concentrate more on high quality, but I've wanted to have a somewhat diverse portfolio, because if I'm going to be making such a concentrated bet within this ecosystem, I at least want to be able to benefit from different kind of sub trends that emerge. And if you're paying real, like, measure it in dollars type of transaction fees just to buy ENS names, that doesn't mean there's not a there, and there are people who are smart and can make money with it, but it wasn't for me. And Unstoppable Domains, really the originator is taking so much of the value capture there because of the way they tier their pricing. And good for them. They're, showing their investors they've been hiring a lot of people, so they're doing something right, I guess. But as somebody who's looking in a lot of cases to resell domains, if so much of that value is being captured right out of the gate, what's that leaving for me? Even with a long-term horizon, you have to really see a lot of appreciation in that case. So it doesn't mean that they're bad protocols or poorly designed. I do think less ambitious than Handshake, and that ambition, if you subscribe to the theory that the greater the risk, the greater the potential reward, that's both a feature and a bug depending on your worldview. But that's a very multifaceted description of kind of what got me into Handshake, and specifically Handshake as opposed to some of these other naming protocols.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. And I often tell people it's kind of like I choose WordPress over Shopify for my shopping carts, because I like I guess I don't want to say I'm cheap. I guess I'm cheap, but I also like the customization and a flexibility, right? Like, so I kind of like, even Andrew Rosner said it on the at the HandyCon talk. He says, like, Unstoppable is much easier to use, but it's more, you can only do so much. But Handshake is very complex, and it's not clear for the new people. It's a big upfront investment, but then there's so much flexibility and customization. And that's kind of why I like it, because I like to kind of, there's so much you can do. It's limitless, right? I mean, I know you and we both have you have a pretty big portfolio, probably bigger than mine too. But even just one TLD, right? You can make a whole, like, business and a life out of it, right? Like, I know a lot of us, especially the earlier people, are sitting on a lot of them, but even just one, that's what people don't get. Like, people, you just get one of these and you could build a lifetime business. It sounds crazy, but it's true.
It's really amazing. And one thing I admire about you, Mike, is your, I guess, efficiency and use of Handshake domains, because I know I might be butchering it, but, like, I know, or I think I know the story behind Sky Include. A friend gave you that to get you into Handshake, and you've built a brand around that. And Flamingo Handshake is it's obviously people are interested in stuff with the handshake emoji, but on its own, a non-repeating two emoji combo is, like, okay, neat, but maybe not gonna retire on it. But you and your team have built a whole business on it, and I've been meaning to update my, like, stat sheet with, like, total Handshake sales volume at this point, but it's literally in the millions of HNS. It's probably pushing like 10 million HNS at this point with everything. So that's huge. And that's just out of, obviously, a lot of hard work, but that's a two emoji combo, and it's really cool. You're totally right it's not so much eye of the beholder, but, like, ambition of the beholder almost of what you can do with these domains, in both kind of the domain itself, the brand or the idea that it represents. And we're really, I think, scratching the surface in terms of technically what you can do with these domains. And a lot of people smarter than me are working very hard on advancing that, which I'm really thankful for.
Yeah, I can't wait for the Beacon browser by Impervious. I saw on the desktop. Yes. I mean, I don't have iOS, so I can't do it on an iPhone, but but I think it's gonna be much better on a desktop. I think most people use desktop. I can't wait. I think so. I think I saw it's like a 2-minute video, and it's got, like, a decent amount of views. I think in multiple thousands within the first day.
Oh, wow.
I checked the views on Twitter, but it gives you some hints on what you can do with these domains that I haven't even seen. They did at the end. I couldn't tell, but they were like looking like they were running a command through the handshake note URL.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. I watched the very end of the 2 minutes or 1.5 minutes, and they did like they it looked like they ran some URL. It was some, but there's like a lot of little nuggets of the power of these inside of that video by itself.
Right.
It's like a teaser, so I can't wait to see what it really can do. But yeah, I mean, I think it's true. Like we're going for the Hail Mary, people in handshake. Like there's the haters on Twitter. Like some of the haters are like, it's such ambitious. Like you actually says it's like it's a feature, but but a lot of people think it's like a negative because it's such a huge thing that Handshake's trying to do that there's a lot of these people that just feel like it's not realistic. And I think you and I feel like obviously we're invested in it with our time and money, but we think there's a chance. And it seems like, I don't know, for me, I get more and more, I don't know, I'm getting more and more excited about the thing. Like, yeah, I guess we're both drinking the Kool-Aid, but I mean, Namecheap's putting on their homepage like this new browser is coming out, right? Like there's more, the HNS chat, that guy Jordan is like doing amazing.
He's incredible.
Things. The payment, the wallet payments. Sorry. Yeah.
No, not at all. It's really incredible. And HNS chat is, you talked about this before, the usability, and Rosner had mentioned that, and that is part of the opportunity right now. Is the usability is more burdensome. I don't want to say the usability is lower, but it's not as abstracted as certain other projects. HNS chat was really interesting in that I'm not a technical person. That's part of why I'm deciding to spend time full time in Handshake, is to kind of get myself more up to speed, but that's not a strength that I'm bringing to the table right now, to put it diplomatically. So it's honestly a little bit intimidating using some of the Handshake tools and products that people have come out with. And HNS chat was, I think, a little bit of a window into the future in that this was very easy. I could, using only opening HNS chat and my Namebase account, was able to log in, and I think that even updating a TXT record is probably going to be a bridge too far for some people, whether due to complexity or due to just people don't want to do stuff, and that's a whole other podcast probably. But that's okay. It's the world. But in my non-technical way of viewing things and seeing very smart people working on this who are focused on kind of the user experience, I feel like we're months away from that step even being easier, for it being as easy as having an HNS name and being able to verify it for a program like HNS chat even more easily. Don't ask me to put that on the whiteboard, the steps to do that, but that abstraction is the trend that things are moving toward, and that's only going to increase the plug and play usability.
Yeah, I mean, man, I was talking to the .x owner. He's a little bit more, I don't know if he's as public, but on Handshake, not Unstoppable, but he believes everybody will have a domain. Like, I think one of his plays is everybody's gonna get a domain name. Currently in Web 2, domain names are more for businesses or entrepreneurs, right? Or influencers or bloggers. Like an individual doesn't really get a domain, or maybe they buy it 1 year and then they never renew because they didn't build a site, right? Like, or they use it for their email address, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think you and I see this future where people use it as not even a website, like their chat name, right? Their login, their wallet. Like, I know ENS has that, and they're actually ahead of us on the wallet thing because it's their main, I think their main feature, but it'll be their idea. All these different Web3 name protocols are similar, saying a similar thing, but I mean, this is much more built into browsers, and I could see it like being a social network, and then your domain name would be your homepage for maybe that social network, right? Like even HNS chat, like I can flip between multiple identities or names, And then maybe I'm in that community because he's locked in communities based on domains that you have or SLDs. So I can pop in and then people could view my profile on that community. Because if I'm in like I know right now it's mostly handshake centered, but I can just see that future, right? Like in these, so that makes this so much more bigger use case than Web 2 domains because it's your username, right? So there's just huge more usage. Of course, it's a bigger nut to crack, but once that floodgate opens, it's going to be.
Yeah, it's really fun to think about, and there are a lot of different configurations that could happen, but it's hard to not see a world in which at least Mike Seiger had an interesting point at HandyCon where he said, paraphrasing, what constitutes a valuable Web 2 domain has more or less carried over into handshake TLDs. And I agree with that. And honestly, he's in a better position to be the judge of that than I am, being the expert that he is. But I agree with that. And I think within the cream of the crop type of TLD, single dictionary word, obviously the very short character, especially single character, it's hard to not see a world in which all of those have the ability to be put to high value use. And how you define value, whether that's revenue generation, whether it's something that's valuable to a community that's using it a certain way, that's to be decided by the holders of these TLDs, some of whom are not totally motivated by economic things, which is cool and a good thing. I think mostly it's a little bit more murky maybe with, say, like 2-word TLDs, your high value search terms, shower faucet, or what, and that's been part of my strategy and where I've thought, I don't know if this is smart, I don't know if this is how well this will turn out, but some of this, like, what do people spend money on? What do people Google or otherwise search for that they're going to spend money on? They're sort of like cost per click based model. And it's I guess the use case discussion, that's where it gets really interesting to me, because it's not obvious which way those are going to go. Is there going to be a community of people that are really interested in wind power that all have .wind power? And this is from my portfolio, so I'm very biased here. It's a great TLD, nice. But is there going to be a community of enthusiasts and professionals who in a future world are granted certain access rights to a community by virtue of having this SLD? Like, I could see that being a cool concept in the right hands, in the right organizer of that community. But I could also see people saying, like, no, this is a waste. No, I'm not going to pay $10 for that. So those are kind of the maybe, I don't want to say marginal use cases, and there's definitely does seem to be a resale market for those domains. It's higher than what somebody might have paid if prudently competed at an auction. But it's fun, it's interesting, and it'll be fun to see how the environment for those types of terms work out. Obviously, there's always somebody that's an outlier that's willing to, that just really likes wind power, and they're willing to spend some money for it. But is there going to be consistently a demand for those types of domains? And that really is tied to a use case. That's a function of how these are used and can be used in my mind. So just was kind of something I've been spending a lot of time on, obviously, thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you recall, there was a talk at HandyCon 1 last year with Flare, and they were talking about using the names as inventory tracking and assets. So if you had oil barrel, right, or .oil, or container ships, you would get an SLD or even a TL third level domain that would not be like, we got to think past it being like an SLD that like a person pays for, but it's like connected to a lot, connected to a shipment, tracking, right? Like he was saying, like, this could be used for a whole database of assets tracking, and it's that is connected. I mean, I think that's what his blockchain is trying to do to at Flare, but he's trying to put the human readable name on top of it. So it's not just a long wallet address. It's tracking transaction, but the transaction is like date format. It's like human readable, so you could know the date
Right.
and the location of this asset on the blockchain.
Mhm. Mhm.
So he was saying like that's some other ways of bridging a domain name or human readable address. That's not maybe what people are using these things for now. Another thing I like is the verbs, because even in the web too, like Google has .new and some others, so that they if you do like sheet.new, you don't need a HNS resolver, but it will open a new Google Sheet. You ever tried that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, try it.
That's cool.
Yeah, just try
That's
that
cool.
on your browser. It's wild.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so I like the verbs because and I can see this working in a Web3 or Handshake world where you could, and I think that's what I saw Beacon doing, because I saw him doing like an action when he typed in a domain at the end and in the Beacon browser. But I think we got to think, that's what we got to think of, like there's going to be new use cases for domains than what I think people are using them for now, which is really going to be exciting. So
Yeah.
let's talk about what you block domains. And I love your blog. We'll link up on
Thank you.
on the notes. You do some really deep research and of the market. So do you want to share like kind of what you're working on and what you know?
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that, Mike. And yeah, it's I said before, my goal right now is more than anything to be a student. And that's how I'm viewing my time in Handshake primarily right now. I, like you said, have been blogging, and I like to really kind of drill down into things that do some. I'm not going to tell you everything I write is spent on. There's some quick hit pieces too, don't get me wrong, but I do like to really, there is some data availability in Handshake right now, and the fact that this is a public blockchain is great for transparency. I referenced I came from the real estate world, and I've been doing either working for the investment side or before that services for about 15 years. And real estate's an interesting industry in that it's, some people, it's adjacent to, it involves finance. It involves complicated finance in some cases. It's one of I consider it the original non-fungible asset class, similar to TLDs.
Yeah.
And real estate, I'm not that much of a graybeard, but even in my time in the industry and speaking with colleagues who have been around for a lot longer, the industry has evolved a lot in terms of sophistication, and a big part of that is standardization of data and availability of data. And real estate is definitely not perfect in that regard right now, but it's a lot easier to understand prevailing metrics for a given property type or a given market or a given situation compared to my understanding of what things might have been 40 years ago. That was the inspiration a little bit for doing an investor survey, which I think moving forward, I'm going to make every 6 months so that people don't get survey fatigue. Originally thought about doing that quarterly, but I think that that's a lot to ask for people because I don't have an easy time keeping it short.
Yeah,
but anyway, that was an inspiration for, it was a lot.
It's good though. I wanted to see the results. So
yeah. And that's part of, I guess, my thought process and what I'm doing here and talking about in a roundabout way after calling myself a student is that I think market efficiency benefits from better access to data. And we've got really smart people who've already done some really cool things with that. I've worked a lot with ShakeStats and Rob primarily over there. He's a great dude and really smart, and has put out some really helpful data, usually at the aggregate level regarding Handshake. There are a couple of other folks who have sliced and diced things, and it's definitely not a totally barren landscape, but it's not easy right now to say, hey, what are the sales trends for 3-character letter only TLD trades in the past 2 months? It's especially not easy to say, okay, what about English dictionary words, 10 characters or fewer? There are very to my knowledge, there aren't publicly accessible tools that can do that right now. So I mentioned before being a student, and part of that is managing expectations, frankly, because I'm putting myself through somewhat of a boot camp, I guess, in terms of better understanding database management, and also at least enough of JavaScript and some basic coding so that I can hire the right people where I need to have help. And what I'm working toward doing is having a functional database of for starters, my focus is on TLDs, but of TLD transactions with some degree of searchability. I'd love for yourself or for somebody who's looking to sell or buy a TLD to be able to say, okay, what are some parameters or what are some characteristics that apply to this TLD? Let me set some parameters on a search so that I can see what all the sales comps are and what's the comp set that spits out. Mm-hmm. It sounds honestly pretty primitive. That's not a super duper high level of functionality, but it's not something that exists right now. And it's something that over time, I would love to assist people with selling their own domains. I think I'm probably better suited to helping people sell than to buy, just based on my background and personality. I'm more of a sell side person. But right now, I don't have the tools to feel like I feel good charging what I would want to charge to do that. I don't feel that I am in a position to consistently add the value in a way that wouldn't involve a ton of kind of non-automated work on my end. And I want to build those tools out. Eventually, there's going to be some stuff that's for my own use, perhaps on a proprietary basis, but it's important to me because what I see as somewhat of a void here in the Handshake community, there's no Dune Analytics dashboards for Handshake. It's really what different people have come up with, some of which again is already really helpful. But when I've put together here's the trends for a given category or single emoji or English words that fit under pick a category, that's been just kind of all manual. And it's not, I want to keep doing that because even in the absence of having some more automated tools, it's good to, I think, keep the conversation going around those areas. And so I was really happy the other day. I tweeted about signs of the zodiac, and there were 3 that were listed that were kind of outliers, and they all got sold in the next couple hours. So I was happy to see that in terms of, hey, I can put some research out there that I didn't say explicitly in the summary chart, these are good prices, somebody should buy these, but people can interpret it how they want to interpret it, and decisions in the marketplace that is at least maybe in part informed by things I'm putting out. I really like that. And I like, even if there's no like commission or whatever for me on it, I like just having that role and being able to help even in a small incremental way, improve market efficiency. So I want to keep doing things like that in the meantime, as just sort of as a manual exercise. It keeps me sharp, it keeps me accountable, and it keeps the conversation going. But with time, I think it's really necessary to have these tools. So like I said, teach myself all the things I wish I'd learned before about database management, web design, because my goal is to have this onto a Handshake resolving website that may or may not be mirrored on domain as well. But I know that I'm not going to be building everything myself, cut from whole cloth. I'm going to need to bring in some specialists for certain areas, but I need to understand how everything works together so that I'm best utilizing those resources and at least have a good idea of the finished product. So that's what I'm working on right now. And it's both fun and a little bit intimidating because I realize I have a lot to learn, but I'm thankful that there are a lot of really smart people in the Handshake community who are specialists in a lot of different areas, and some of whom I may try to hire for gigs in the future. But there are a lot of resources out there. So fingers crossed, in the coming weeks, I'll be in a position to share, share something more substantive.
Yeah, I'm excited. If I can help connect you with some people, or if you want to ask for people you're looking for here. This has been a really amazing. Wow, now I'm more stuff I'm excited about to see.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I do agree. There's a need for data in here. Maybe also curated buying, right? Like obviously Namecheap came in. I was looking through some sales of the TLDs because they didn't get anything at auction, I don't think, on the original auction. So I looked up the ones. Those sellers must be upset because Namecheap's selling on the SLDs now. Look at Creator, Elite. They're all in April 2021. And they bought them for like 5, 6, 7,000 HNS. Wow. I know the seller at that time was all happy, probably because they paid 1,000 or less, but maybe helping. I think there's gonna be this wave of people because I think maybe my last question for today is there's new people finding out about it, and I know you said at the beginning is you found out about it in the first year and the auctions, and I know some people find now and they're a little bit like maybe somewhat discouraged or not sure, or is it too late, or how should I get into this now? Like everything seems taken. I search for a name base or etc. Sure. You know, what's the strategy for maybe new people finding out about it at this point?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, and there's no doubt about it. There's certain opportunities that don't exist anymore, and I'd be lying if I said otherwise. I do think that there's still a very high mental burden with the primary auction system. People are really intimidated by it, and it is a little bit confusing. And because of that, I think that there are still opportunities to buy domains at auction. And frankly, I've been successful in buying, even in the past handful of months, of buying and reselling certain names on the secondary market. So I think that there are those opportunities. But where I see things kind of like coming together, we're at this point where things are still pretty complicated. It's if you're new to, if you don't have experience with either domaining or crypto style investing, even name base is pretty intimidating. But there are a lot of tools. So this is kind of what I would tell somebody. There are a lot of tools. You are one person who's responsible for many of them. That it's not, yes, some of the concepts are hard, but most people should be able to get from A to B in terms of funding a handshake wallet and understanding how to bid on domains at this point. So if you can get yourself through that hurdle, you're already, and it's just because of stick-with-itness or whatever, you're already ahead of a lot of people out there who, to your point earlier about crypto people preferring influencer-led stuff, it's a time horizon thing. So you're already ahead of 90% of the population that has a very short-term horizon that doesn't want to do a 5-day auction period followed by a 10-day reveal, followed by, realistically, you're going to probably want to season a domain unless you really find something that falls between the cracks. You're going to probably want to have it seasoned a little bit before you try to resell it. So, okay, best case scenario, you're talking about a couple months there in most cases. You're weeding out between that and between the surmountable but real technical hurdles. You're weeding out a lot of people. Take a look at what's happening with the ecosystem, though, and you referenced Namecheap earlier. That's gigantic. The fact that Namecheap is the second largest player in the traditional domaining world, and they're making a very public and concerted bet on HNS. They're not financing they're not mortgaging the Web2 business to do it. I don't believe, or anything like that. But they've worked really hard to have the reputation that they do in the industry, and ditto that for Porkbun, that for Encirca. All of these legacy players, you've got Opera integration forthcoming sometime in the near future. You've got all of these. You don't have to be a domain specialist. You don't have to be a crypto specialist to just look at the WinSock and see these are major league company. Okay, like Colin quit his job and BlockDomains is full time. Like, okay, cool. Namecheap bought Namebase. That's a BFD sort of. That's a transaction, and Namecheap offering what they are, and I know nothing about Mike Seiger joining GoDaddy, but it's not lost on me that the week before that he was speaking at a Handshake conference, and he didn't get hired for Handshake. I don't think he got hired because he's a titan of domaining and built an awesome company. But it's not lost on me that GoDaddy has, up to this point, not really, I don't think, said anything about Handshake. And now their director of education is somebody who is, at a minimum, very open-minded and is active in the market. So you've got all of these major player forces that are coalescing. So for somebody that's thinking, too late, this ship has sailed, whatever, you've still got a burden. You've still got a burden to entry due to complexity and due to people being lazy or whatever. And you've got all of this water building behind the dam that it feels like is going to rush over, rupture, pick a verb, I guess, soon. And that's the opportunity. And we're still, and that, yeah, I think the rest of 2020 is going to be really cool. And we're going to have things both that we expect and things that we don't expect that will come to fruition. But I don't think that that's the end of the road. And you look at the adoption cycle. Yes, people are already used to the internet. It might not be the same adoption timeline that's a decade and a half or whatever for .com. It might be quicker than that, but this is something that's going to play out over years. You've got people that, like, this is crypto, right? So people have that short-term mindset, buy a bunch of domains. I'm not saying be a bottom feeder here, but I am from the real estate industry, so shoot. Look for distressed buying opportunities. You get people that think they're going to buy this, flip it, make $1 zillion, and so you have opportunities to be a exit liquidity for somebody that gives you a good entry price, and that's entry price is 90% of the battle. So it's a little bit more than you asked for, and that would be a hellish elevator ride for whoever got stuck with me asking about Handshake in that description. But nice. That's the spirit of what I would tell somebody, that it's not too late. Don't buy everything. Don't buy everything on the marketplace at list price. Don't be an idiot, and don't have all your eggs in one basket. But there are a lot of opportunities out there. As you can tell, I'm very excited about them.
Yeah, man, you get me. It's fun to do these talks and getting us motivated, get me excited. All right, I think this is much more deeper than I was expecting, and I'm surprised with this catch up. I guess my last part is where can people find you, and like what are some ways people go work with you, or if you're.
Oh yeah. The best way is to get in touch with me. I'm on Twitter at HNS Worldwide. I'm on HNS Chat under BlockDomains, and also use that same name on Discord. It's easiest to find me on the name base Discord. So those are the best places to reach me. I love connecting with people in the community and just kind of talking shop. So always love to hear from folks.
Cool. Thank you so much, Colin. Really appreciate it.
All right. This was great. Thanks again, Mike. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for listening to a Sky Include podcast. Again, we're at Sky Include / on Handshake HNS or skyinclude.com on the old internet, or DNS or Web 2. We also have tons of YouTube videos, free guides, blog posts, epic content, Handshake conferences of HandyCon 1 and HandyCon 2. So definitely don't forget to check all those things out on the internet. Thanks for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, share button, like button, up button, whatever button on whatever platform. Hopefully we stick around on iTunes. Hopefully we stick around on YouTube. But they might delete this soon once they figure out the future of the internet is not going their way. Thank you so much for listening. Mike McLean here. Take care.